Welcome back to the FanSpeak Network as we are here to preview NFL Wildcard Weekend. Welcome back to the FanSpeak Network. I'm your host, Fred Astaire, joined as always by Tyler Hicks. And Jamie, my bad, I had to reschedule during the month of December, so I haven't seen you for a bit. How you been, buddy? And what are your final thoughts? Tyler and I gave out some of our thoughts yesterday. Final thoughts on the NFL regular season. Any thoughts on any of the fire reigns or shakeups or things going on? And then, of course, we'll dive right in. Fortunately, we have a little more time to talk today, as it's only a 6-game schedule as opposed to our usual 16.
Yeah, thanks for having me back on, man. Missed you guys. Hope you guys had a good holiday season. It was busy for me per usual, but that's all right. Yeah, Week 18 was fun, man. I felt like there was a lot of close games, like games that came out of the wire. It's a good way to end the season. The fire rings, nothing really was too surprising. I guess maybe the Gerard Mayo thing, just because he was there for 1 year and the situation he was dealt. I don't know what Robert Kraft kind of expected. But outside of that, I think everything it kind of made sense. I'm interested to see what happens with these coach candidates. I'm really interested what's going to happen with like the Jets, the Jaguars, and the Bears specifically. I watched the show yesterday too, and I think Tyler was talking about they might bring back Thomas Brown, which would be I hope they do. I would imagine there's just no way that they could run that back. I mean, the organization is so bad, so you never know. But interested to see where it goes, man, and I'm excited to break down these wildcard games.
Yeah, my main takeaways are just bad franchises stay bad for a reason. And yesterday, I was down on the Jaguars for not firing Balky. I mean, it just goes hand in hand, and it's already come out. There's a list of coaches who are now no longer interested in that job because they don't want to work for him. Yeah. He continually fires the wrong players for whatever reason. He just has the silver tongue where he's able to convince the owner that none of it was his fault and blame it all on the coach. And then I feel like we saw that same thing now in Tennessee where they're keeping the coach, but they're firing the general manager. It's just like, have some continuity, have some faith. And if you're going to get rid of them both because they need to work together. It's, it's like the center and the quarterback. It's one of the most important relationships on your team. So bad franchises stay bad for a reason. And with this rate, I feel bad for Cam Ward. I'm assuming that's where he ends up in Tennessee. But in Tennessee, Jacksonville, of course, my Las Vegas team, these teams just seem like they have no chance because of the overall ownership. Tyler, anything that we forgot to talk about yesterday? And did you see the Titans news and any other general thoughts before we dive right in?
No, I think we touched on everything yesterday. They fired the GM. They probably should have done that. I see the Jags put out a list of guys that they're interested in hiring. One name that stuck out to me down there was Robert Saleh. I think that'd be a great coach down there. It would fix the defense. So, we'll see what happens with these coaching jobs, and it's just something we speculate now, so can't really talk much about it.
Yeah. And of course we will see what happens, but you can just see bad organizations are going to stay bad, and it starts at the top. And you leave Trent Baalke in there, okay? I can't imagine being a Jaguars fan. I kind of can because I'm a Raiders fan. Same thing with the Titans. Since this lady's taken over, it's been a bad decision after bad decision. All right, enough of me lamenting. It just feels like in the NFL right now, like the parity's gone. There's just like 10 teams that just don't have a chance.
Yeah.
That's every sports league spread. You're telling me there ain't? You're telling me the NBA?
Yes, you're right. No, the NBA's worse, and baseball's worse.
You're telling me
baseball's way worse.
Teams that pretty much are etched into the finals chances, and everyone else is just playing for nothing.
Yeah. Maybe if someone watches Premier League soccer can tell me if there's more parity over there. All right, let's dive in. The Los Angeles Chargers are -3 or -2.5, depending on where you shop. They're in Houston. They're taking on the Texans. Totals 42.5. Tyler, we kind of talked about this yesterday because I had messaged you before I wrote the article up for Odds Trader. And you and Meg both like the Chargers there. That's what I wrote up. But just for the sake of the show, I'll list off some arguments that I found for the Texans while I was writing the article. Texans do have an excellent defensive secondary. We've already talked about the Chargers' lack of weapons. So the Texans' strength going against the Chargers' weakness, that's something they can hang their hat on. And, everybody's saying, oh, well, the Chargers have the better quarterback. To be fair, Herbert's never had much playoff success. And while CJ Stroud did have a down season, I don't think that it would be that crazy if he were to bounce back and outplay Herbert in this situation. The Texans will be at home. And, everyone's harping on the Chargers coaching advantage. I don't think DeMeco Ryans is that out of his league here. And I know people are down on Bobby Slowick as well, but I feel like he has a great chance for a good game plan. So there's a reason this line is so close. But we talked about the Chargers yesterday. Go ahead and talk to me about some of my concerns for that pick and why you like the Los Angeles Chargers here.
Yeah, after sleeping on it spread, I think I might be on the other side. That's why I don't bet. That's why I don't bet early in the week. It's just one of them spots you think you run the game through your head a couple times. Yeah, Houston's defense could slow down the Chargers. They can't really run the ball. J.K. Dobbins is back, but he doesn't look all that good in his recent weeks back. It's only Lab McConkey. I don't trust Quentin Johnson to go out there and catch 13 or 14 targets again for 180 yards like he did last week. So it's really just Lab McConkey and Justin Herbert. They signed Zeke. That's nothing out of just a goal line thing. And their defense coming down the stretch, their defense was leaking. They were giving up a ton of yards. They were letting teams score as much as they wanted. They were able to run the ball, throw the ball on them. I think Nico Collins and Joe Mixon and CJ Stroud just might be enough in this matchup. I don't know if I'm going to take the 2.5. I think it's a prime spot to take Houston and tease them up to 8.5, though, get it above a touchdown. So yeah. I'll probably do a playoff teaser. I think they're perfectly to use here because I don't see the Chargers blowing them out. I think it's a closer game. I think Houston can keep it close. And worst case scenario, we get an ugly game where both defensive lines are all over these quarterbacks. And it's just a very close, ugly game. So I'll just tease Houston up, and that's pretty much it. I don't think I'm going to take the Chargers to win outright. I don't think I'm going to take the Chargers to cover. I don't think I'll be on Houston plus the 2.5 either. So just Houston in a teaser.
So Tyler has changed his mind since yesterday. And Tyler, something you said that we noted during these shows during the year, at the time, remember I kept talking about, the Chargers have the number one defense statistically, but you read off the teams they played, right?
Yeah, they didn't play.
And Knicks got better during the year, but it was like a stretch where Knicks was the best quarterback they went against. It's like you beat Aiden O'Connell, Spencer Rattler, Desmond Ridder, the Jokers in New Orleans, right? So maybe some of that defensive statistical success was more a product of an easy schedule. That being said, Jamie, Texans have had a pretty easy schedule too. Right. So while the Chargers were sharpening their teeth against these great teams, such as Denver, who has a really good defense and is an excellent coach, they played Kansas City, right? They played a bunch of top teams. Who were the Texans playing in the division? Titans, we just talked about how that's a disaster franchise. Jaguars, we already talked about how that's a disaster franchise. And the Colts, who simply, hey, I actually think that's an okay franchise. They just, they made the wrong decision at quarterback, so they're not going to be competitive. So we can talk about the Chargers' strength of schedule. However, the Texans is even weaker. Where are you landing on this game, Jamie?
Yeah, I like the Chargers here. I think that if it keeps going up, it gets like the 3, then it probably about right, to be honest. But I really like the under in this game. I got it in at 44.5 a few days ago. It is down all the way to 42.5, so I don't know if I would still take that. But, these are two conservative coaches. These two coaches that have no issue with kicking field goals. I think there's both 2 top 5 defenses in the NFL. But I do lean on the Chargers side. Basically, I just think they're a better quarterback and a better head coach. And for me, I don't think either one of their skill positions on offense are that great. If the Houston was at full strength, that they had, Tank Dell and they had Stephon Diggs, I think we'd be talking about a different thing here. But they just have Nico Collins. Chargers just had Lad McConkey. Joe Mixon has not been very good the last several weeks of the season. I still think he's probably a little banged up, to be honest with you. So I think that him and J.K. Dobbins are pretty even. And this is kind of a bad matchup for Stroud. So the Chargers play zone coverage at the 5th highest rate in the league. Stroud ranks 25th in EPA per dropback versus zone. He has 9 touchdowns to 9 interceptions versus the zone, compared to 10 touchdowns and 3 interceptions versus man. So I think this is a pretty tough spot for CJ Stroud. I think this is something that he could probably overcome if he had all of his weapons. But the fact that he's already so depleted in that area, I don't really trust the offensive line. To me, just give me the better head coach and the better quarterback. So I like the Chargers here, but I really do like the under. It's probably still okay at the 42.5, but you're starting to get close to some key numbers. So I don't love it as much as it was early in the week, but that's kind of where I stand right now.
All right, some final trends here that kind of move towards the Chargers. Chargers are 9-2 against the spread in their last 11 games. Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert is 12-4 against the spread in his last 16 games as a favorite on the road. Houston Texans only 3-5 against the spread at home this season. Also, the Chargers do run a heavy dose of cover 2, and that was one of the worst coverages for CJ Stroud's QBR this season. So he struggled against the cover 2. He prefers the more aggressive blitzing man-to-man style defenses. Finally, Chargers are also 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 road games. So, there's some trends there for the Chargers as well. Anything more on that game, Tyler, before we move on to your favorite team?
No, we could jump into that. What's going to be the funeral for the Pittsburgh Steelers that night?
Yeah, I mean, the real question is whether or not the Ravens blow them out. I would be really surprised to see the Steelers win. Of course, the Steelers are 1-1 against the Ravens this season. They won a game, 18-16. I know they didn't score a touchdown in that game, but then and at that point they had become 4-0 against Lamar Jackson ATS, and now Lamar finally got his revenge. However, we always talk about pieces. We always talk about weapons, Tyler. Zay Flowers could be out, which doesn't make me want to bet the Pittsburgh money line, but still makes me think that, hey, maybe they will have a bigger problem covering that 10-point spread than people expect. Tyler, you're going to hate to hear this from me, but I don't care. I'm not laying 10 in the playoffs. To me, it's Steelers are passed, and as of right now, I've passed. Go ahead and tell me why I'm an idiot and why you're betting on the Baltimore Ravens.
No, I mean, 10 points is a lot. They did, and it's one of those things when you go back and look at their recent games, like every once in a while, every 9 games in this matchup, there is always a blowout. Well, you had the blowout last game, so mathematically wise and history wise, kind of tells you that these games are going to go back to being close. But when you watch the Steelers play, I just don't see it. I heard somebody make a great analogy today about the Steelers. It's like they're a 7-win team year after year after year. And Tomlin steals 2 wins somewhere that he shouldn't on the schedule. They win 9 games or more. They make the playoffs. And then they're a playoff team, but they're really a 7-win team that snuck in. So they lose in the first round. They go, we're going to run that all back because, well, we got to the playoffs. We were a 7-win team. We won 9 games or 10 games. So we'll do it again next year. And it's probably what's going to happen right here. They're going to go out. They're going to lose. The Zay Flowers injury, it doesn't worry me all that much because he had a decent game against us last time out, but we can't stop the run. We've had a problem against the run since the Giants primetime game. Tyrone Tracy lit that defense up. Ever since then, every running back we've played has gouged this defense. Even Khalil Herbert last week was running through this defense for big gains. Now you're going to let Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson in what looks like to be snowy weather run all over this defense. Russ in snowy weather probably doesn't bode well either when all you can throw is deep balls or short passes, and Baltimore's not going to give up anything short. It's probably by Baltimore by whatever they want. So I'll find a way onto Baltimore, but I don't think I'm going to lay the 9.5.
Jamie, I'm starting to feel pretty old because the old man in me says there's no way I'm laying 10 points on the road in the NFL, and that's not how you make money. But it feels like this season, you throw out the first 2 or 3 weeks with all those upsets. The easiest bets, it seems to be the biggest spread on the board. You know, the minus 14s turned into 30-point wins. The minus 10 turned into 24-point wins. And Tyler talked about the skid that this team is on, and feels like they lost a lot of the good vibes. It feels like there's not a lot of belief in Russell Wilson. And to be fair, I'm going back because I bet on the Steelers on a lot of those games. How many of those games were just George Pickens making incredible catches in double coverage that probably wasn't sustainable? They don't have an offensive scheme. They don't have a number 2. For their offense, Najee Harris simply isn't good enough because he doesn't give you anything extra. I mean, we talk about wins above replacement. I always used to say that about James Conner. Conner's way above him now. To me now, Najee is the replacement in there. He hits the hole. He falls forward. He's not evading any tackle, not breaking a lot of tackles either. This is tough for me, Jamie. I feel old because the old man in me says take the 10 in a wild card game. But the recent data says these teams aren't equal, and on these big spreads, you're actually better off taking the favorite rather than the dog.
Yeah. What makes you more old, that or the fact you called Jalen Warren James Conner? So I'm not
No,
sure.
I'm saying no. That was my joke. I always said James Conner.
Oh,
is
I get you, 'cause
replacement.
I got you.
Replacement. James Conner is a replacement. He's above that
I got
now.
you.
I take my L there. He's a great running back.
I got you.
Najee Harris is the replacement. He's 0.
I got you. Yeah. Okay. That's my fault. I thought you got to mix up for a second. I was like, you are a little old then. No, but I'm with you, man. This is going to be a pass for me. I think it's probably too many points, but I also can see Baltimore just blowing the doors off the place here. Tyler was spot on, man. This is a 7-win team when it comes to talent-wise, and Tomlin just gives them a couple extra wins every single year. Like, Tyler was spot on that. Like, this team is just not very good from a skill position standpoint, right? They're not like the worst team in the league, but they're definitely around a 7-win team. And Tomlin is a good enough coach that he's able to get you 2 or 3 extra wins almost every single year. But this team's on a 4-game losing streak. They haven't exceeded 17 points one time in these last 4 games. They're just not able to move the football. They've scored 20-plus points just twice in the last 8 games, and that was against Cincinnati and Cleveland. The offense, I think, is just if in my opinion, if you think Baltimore is going to score probably 30 points in this game, they're probably going to cover the spread. I'm not sure, unless it's some garbage time stuff, about how this Pittsburgh team is going to be able to move the ball when they have not been able to show that the last several weeks. And the Baltimore's defense has started to play a little bit better towards the end of the year. So for me, overall, it's just going to be a pass. I don't really want to lay that many points. I think the line is probably pretty accurate here. But I could also see Baltimore just blowing the doors off the place. So pass for me.
I got to ask you something, Jamie, because I've asked a lot of people this question. And everyone I've asked this question roots for bad teams. Well, your team won a Super Bowl with a coach. Yins ended up letting him go. Yins went with a young guy. Yins kind of kept it going. It's year after year with this guy. Is it time?
And I watched yesterday, and you made a great point with like the Mike McCarthy and
You're the same guy.
comparison. The same guy. They're going to win you a bunch of games in the playoffs.
Mike Tomlin
is
10 times better than Mike McCarthy. Let's just stop.
Tomlin is
never
definitely
had
better.
a quarterback the level of Aaron Rodgers. You talk about Yins overrate Ben Roethlisberger so much. He was so clearly in a tier lower than Brady and Manning during that whole AFC run. He didn't have the work ethic.
Those are two of the 3 best quarterbacks ever, spread.
Yeah, I know. So that's why it's like.
Well, of course he's a tier below him, but he wasn't far down. He snuck into
I'm
Super
just
Bowls.
saying, you act like he should have won these 10 Super Bowls when he's never.
He had the best wide receiver, the best running back, and the best offensive line in football all at once.
Those players.
And they lost year after year after year.
They didn't have the better quarterback. It's a quarterback league.
They lost to Blake Bortles.
Okay, that was a bad loss, and I lost a lot of money on that game. So
yeah, so I mean, Tomlin is definitely a better coach than Mike McCarthy, right? Like, but I get the comparison that he's trying to make, right? About a coach that consistently wins in the regular season, but still, especially in recent history, has struggled in the playoffs. I totally get it. And you're talking about, yeah, Mike McCarthy definitely had better quarterback play, but Tomlin definitely had much better defenses, and not even close, to be honest. And some of the games that he lost, like you said, to Blake Bortles, you just cannot be losing those type of games, regardless of who your quarterback situation is. But I do get it, because it kind of feels like if you're a Steelers fan, you're kind of stuck in that that middle of the pack where you're never going to be drafting, these top quarterbacks. You kind of have to hope you can luck box into a late round guy. Like, to be honest, the Packers kind of did. They luck box into an Aaron Rodgers with the late pick in the first round. They luck box into Love with late pick, and you kind of feel like with the Steelers, that's kind of what it has to be, right? They kind of have to luck box into that spot to be able to get a new quarterback. So I'm with you. It's tough to say to get rid of them because, the grass is not always greener. So the next thing you know, you could just be in the cycle of, like the Jaguars or, some of these other coaches that are just like rinse and repeating new coaches. But I also do get your perspective of being a Steelers fan and be like, I'm tired of being in the middle of the pack. We're not winning Super Bowls and we're not getting a top pick. We're picking 19th to 20th, almost every single year. It's got to be frustrating. I get it.
It's frustrating. And this I get shit for this take because everyone's like, oh, well, I never seen my team win and I'm old. I've seen them win 2 Super Bowls. If they suck for the rest of my life, I can give a shit less. It's time for change.
Yeah, I feel you. I can see that. I got you on that.
All right. Well, a good thing your owners know more. I mean, so who are you going to get?
That's the other thing.
Who are you going to get?
Everyone talks about the owners. This isn't the old Rooney that was controlling the football.
You think Ben Johnson is going to make Russell Wilson good?
No.
Liam
that's
Cohen
why I said we don't want Ben
good?
Johnson.
No. There's no better options out there.
Okay, well then let's bring him back. Let's run out another plug and play quarterback, Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers. Let's win 9 games again, and then go, oh, we lost in the wild card again. Let's do it again next year, and the next year, and the next year.
As someone who's experienced, let me tell you, it's much better than going 4-13.
My statement I just said: if they suck the rest of my life, I could give a shit less. See them win 2 Super Bowls.
All right, let's move on to Sunday. We can continue this argument on every single show for the rest of our lives. The Denver Broncos.
One last thing. Don't just fire the man. He's a good enough coach. Trade him for a pick. You could definitely get your quarterback for him.
Yep.
No, you can't.
Yes, you can.
Who's giving up a top 5 pick for a coach?
The Patriots right now.
No, they are not. Why would you not just give Mike Vrabel? He's the same exact dude.
I mean, Mike Vrabel doesn't have this I win every year stick to him coming in.
Spread, you're comparing Mike Vrabel to Mike Tomlin?
But Mike McCarthy isn't.
I'm just trying to say.
What has Vrabel ever done?
All right.
He's a cool coach that yells on the sideline.
Mike Vrabel and the 4th overall pick or Mike Tomlin? What are you taking? You need the pick. You're not giving up the 4th overall pick. This it's just delusional. The idea that you're going to get anything.
What did Sean Payton just get traded for?
The closest you'll get is a second.
Sean Payton got traded for multiple first-round picks, didn't he?
I don't think so.
I think it was at least a first. Maybe it was a second. I can't remember.
I'm looking this up.
No, they did get a first, a second, and a third.
And who's the better coach?
I'd say Mike Tomlin's value is pretty high. I think there's a lot of teams that could think
so.
I think he is.
I think a lot of these organizations realize, man, that quarterback is important, but the quarterback doesn't matter if you don't have a good coach to pair him with. How many good quarterbacks just go into a wasteland? I mean, look at Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was in the wasteland for years and goes to a good head coach, and people are talking about him winning MVP or comeback player of the year and all this other stuff, right? Like I could see it, man. Like, again, a top 5 overall pick, maybe not. That might be a stretch, but you could definitely get multiple picks.
You can get a haul for him.
Yeah, you could definitely get a haul. There's no doubt you could.
All right, we will see. I don't think so. The Denver Broncos, speaking of Sean Payton, are +9 in Buffalo, taking on the Bills. Total is 47.5. Start with you, Tyler. It's another one. Well, okay. So the last one I said I'd rather take the points. This one I'd probably lay it, but I'm having flashbacks to when Buffalo hosted Miami. Was that last year? And I went huge on Buffalo, and they were laying a lot.
That was 2 years ago.
Yeah, and it was a close game. So I don't know. What do you think, Tyler?
I think the Bills blow this team out the water. Like, I know Pittsburgh's by far the worst playoff team of all of them. Denver's not too far ahead of them. So Denver can't run the ball. They're going to try and throw it against Buffalo. Buffalo's offense doesn't have this like wide receiver one that Surtain can go pick out and take out of the game. He'll just spread the ball around and he'll run it himself. So Surtain can't cover Josh Allen and slow him down. This offense is going to hum. I don't see it out yet, but my guess is just with the way the spreads are set, you can bet like biggest blowout for Wildcard Weekend. That Steeler game's going to be favored. I think the Bills hang 40 on this team, and I'm not sure Denver gets to 10. So I will be betting this is the biggest blowout.
All right. Jamie, what do you think? Tyler thinks it's going to be a big blowout. I kind of do too. As fun as this Bo Nix and this Broncos resurgence has been, Josh Allen's an absolute truck, and this isn't like playing the Steelers. Not just like, Surtain can just take out one wide receiver and they have nothing left. It is a fairly balanced offense, and so who's Surtain going to take away? Cooper? I mean, he hasn't been like amazing. You still have Shakir, Kincaid, Cook's been excellent on the ground. This team seems to get it done no matter what. I'm leaning towards the Bills, but I didn't bet it.
Yeah, I like the Bills here, man. This is these are two teams in two different weight classes. The Bills are just objectively so much better than the Broncos. I would not be surprised if we see this one be kind of similar to the Baltimore-Denver game a few weeks back, where I think, Baltimore won like 41-10 or something like that. I think it's a good story. And if you're a Broncos fan, you should still be optimistic about the future. You got a good head coach. You got a quarterback that looks pretty good. And you don't even have tons of talent on the offensive side of the ball, really, outside of Cortland Sutton. Mims and some of these guys are pretty decent, but nothing to write home about. But, the only playoff team that Denver has beat all year was Tampa Bay, and that was in week 3. Like I said, they got smashed by Baltimore, and I kind of expect the game to go pretty similar to that. I think this is a good spot for Buffalo. I think Buffalo is a much better team this year than they had been in years past. And I think the idea that, like you said, that there isn't just a player to take away, right? Like in years past, you can just kind of try to take away Diggs. This, you just can't do it. He spreads the ball around too much. I love Buffalo here. So I'm with you guys. All three of us on Buffalo train.
All right. Do you want to move on to your favorite team, Jamie?
Let's do it.
All right. It sucked because when these matchups were announced, I was already envisioning our heavyweight battle, a sparring in the middle of the ring. Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson all over again as my old washed up ass tried to throw some swings at you. However, due to this Jalen Hurts news, I can't get involved. This line was as high as 5.5. It's down to 4, Jamie. Is that indicated? Are the Packers popular in the market, or is the fact that he's still in concussion protocol worrying people? And even if he does play, the statistics with players in their first game after concussions is significantly lower than what their normal performance is. So even if he does get out there, are we going to see that same elite level from Jalen Hurts that we usually do? Jamie, it must be nice to just run so good. You run into this team that in my mind is way better than your team. No offense. It's just how I rate them. And now they might not have their best quarterback, and you might be facing a guy named Tanner McKee. Doesn't that sound like the next door neighbor on one of those 80s Who's the Boss or Growing Pains show? Like, Tanner McKee came over on Family Ties. You got an 80s sitcom star that you might be going against a quarterback. Tell me how you're approaching this game.
Yeah. Well, so the line did open up at 3.5. And so it did move up. And then if it got up to 5.5, then it probably went back down to 4.5. I'm not sure. I didn't see that. But I think Hurts is going to play. I would be pretty shocked if he doesn't play. I also think
it's like concussion protocol. It's not like a knee injury or something.
No doubt. Yeah. I would still be surprised. That's a long time for a concussion. Like I said before the show, if that is the case that he is still out, hopefully everything goes well for him, because that's scary stuff to be out almost a full month with a concussion. So hopefully it all goes well. And this sucks, right? Because I've talked about it all year on this show. I have 2 futures in the NFC, and ideally, right, these 2 teams, Packers and Eagles, would play against each other in an NFC Championship. Instead, it's not how it shook out. The bracket came out, and we got these 2 teams going head-to-head now. I will say, I think, and you can tell me what you think about this, but whatever side people fall into here, instead of betting that team, I would just kind of look to take this team to win the NFC. And again, I'm a little biased because I did bet on both these teams to win the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year. But I still think that these are two of the best teams in the league. I think you can make obviously an argument for Detroit, clearly, since they beat the Packers twice. But they still have tons of injuries on that team. And it feels like every single week they're losing more and more guys. So I do think that is a bit of concern. And we'll talk about Minnesota here in a bit. But I like the Packers side here. I think there's some worrisome things, right? So I think Christian Watson's injury is not good at all for Green Bay, specifically during this matchup and also for the next matchup they would get out. He's the man beater on this team, right? So he's tied third in the entire NFL in yards per route run with 3.5 versus man coverage. That's only behind Puka, A.J. Brown, and tied with Nico Collins. Every single other Packers wide receiver is worse against man coverage than they are against zone. This is the guy that I was the most excited about for this specific matchup. So losing him, I think, really hurts this team. But I think there are a few ways that Packers match up pretty well against this Eagles team. First off, like you said, Hurts Rust. If he comes back, will be 1 full month and he's thrown the ball 4 times. I think that could play an impact to this game. But most importantly, Philadelphia's defense has been very good, right? But they do play they rank 26 in blitz rate. And if you look at Jordan Love's splits versus the blitz and not versus the blitz, it's drastic, right? So Love, when he's not blitzed, it ranks second in yards per attempt at 8.7 versus the blitz. He ranks 26th with 6.7. He has a 15-5 touchdown to interception ratio with no blitz, 10-6 touchdown interception ratio when he is blitzed, and he is ranked 4th in EPA per dropback when he is not blitzed, and he is ranked 23rd in EPA per dropback when he is blitzed. And so for a team like the Eagles that do not blitz a ton, and maybe that game plan changes for them a little bit in this matchup, but from what they've done all season, they're not a blitz-heavy team. I think that bodes really well for Jordan Love in this offense. And now if we look at the defense side of the ball, I think this is a sneaky good spot for Green Bay against this passing attack if they are forced to throw. Green Bay's defense is terrible over the middle of the field. They have been all year. They rank dead last, and that's why teams like the Lions kind of have carved them up because the Lions attack the middle of the field more than anyone. Well, Philadelphia ranks dead last in throw percentage over the middle of the field. They are constantly throwing to the outside, right? Jalen Hurts has a 9.3 turnover-worthy percentage throw rate, which ranks first, as in the worst in the entire NFL, over the middle of the field. Green Bay also plays zone at the 3rd highest rate. Hurts ranks 22nd in yards per attempt versus zone. He has 3 touchdowns to 4 interceptions against the zone, and he ranks 30th in EPA per dropback against the zone. So stylistically, I think this is actually a pretty strong matchup for Green Bay. But here's the key, right? Green Bay, they have an issue when they play all these good teams all year, and it's the same thing. They get behind early. They start off slow, and they have to play catch up every single time. They can simply not do that against this team, because if you do that, if it goes down as 17-3 going into half, it's over. You're not going to be able to mathematically catch up enough points, but also have multiple series where you're stopping Saquon Barkley from running down your throat. You've got to force this Eagles team to want to throw the football. You've got to force Hurts to throw the ball 35 plus times in this game. If he's throwing the ball 25 times, it's over. The Eagles are going to win the game. It's that simple. So if the Packers can find a way to get off to a hot start, I like them quite a bit in this game. And I'm with you though too. I do think the Eagles overall have been the best team in the NFC. I truthfully do. But matchup wise, I think the Packers match up pretty well with these guys. They just got to get off to a hot start. And I know a lot of people are thinking too, like, well, they lost to Minnesota 2 weeks ago. They lost to the Bears this past week. Nothing is ever as good or as bad as it seems, right? It happens every single year. Like last year against the Packers, they started off terrible. And then what happened? They played Detroit on Thanksgiving Day. They beat Detroit. Then the following week, they played the Super Bowl champs, Kansas City Chiefs. They beat them. And I literally remember everyone saying, oh, wow, you don't want to play this team. You don't want to play this team. You know what happened the following week? They lost to Tommy DeVito and the Giants. And then you know what happened the week after that? Tampa Bay came into Green Bay and they blew Green Bay out the water. These seasons of ebbs and flows. You never want to get too high. You never want to get too low. I'm not worried about the Packers losing 2 in a row getting into the playoffs. I still think they have the skill set and the team to be able to get going. Jordan Love does have to play better. Matt LaFleur's got to call a better game. Matt LaFleur's been way too inconsistent. Everyone here knows how high I've been on Matt LaFleur all year. He just has struggled. I haven't been on here for about a month, so I haven't got talking about some of the stuff that he's done, which how obsessive he is with running the football, how little he wants to throw the ball over the middle of the field. Him on 4th downs was just terrible. There's no rhyme or reason when he goes for it on 4th down, and then he calls like a jet sweep on 4th and 3. So some of these things have to be cleaned up. But overall, I like Green Bay here. I would take the 4.5. And like you said, maybe it goes up if Hurts is ruled out. I still feel like Hurts is going to play. But either way, the Packers just don't get blown out. They just simply don't get blown out. So give me the points for Green Bay.
Yeah, I wish we knew Hurts was in there because I would be on the opposite side. I think the Packers have shown their true colors against the top competition in the league. But one thing I do want to commend you on, Jamie, is not trying to fire your coach if you lose this game. Tyler, your thoughts here on this game between the Packers and the Eagles?
Muted.
You're muted. Right after I take that shot at you.
That's a terrible way to start off because I was sending my shot back. I was going to say, I'm not scared of a little injury news like that guy to my left. I'll plant my flag. I don't give a damn who's playing quarterback in this game. I think Saquon Barkley's going to run right through this defense. I honestly think they could run Wildcat this entire game, and they would make this game very competitive. I think he's going to run for at least $150. He's a week rested. Their run defense has always been the weakness, even though they've shown spots where it's like, oh, they've tightened up. In the end, it always comes flaring back up. It just seems like a weird spot, too. They're missing a wide receiver. This is not a defense you want to be missing wide receivers against. They give up the least amount of passing yards in the league. They have 4 outstanding corners they can throw on the field at any moment. They'll get pressure just blitzing 3 to 4 guys. And Love's banged up. I know they said he's fine, but I just don't like the whole you're squeezing with your hand. It's an elbow injury. To me, even if he's fine, it's going to be cold. One whack to his arm again, and that could flare right back up. Now we're talking about Malik Willis. Even if Hurts sits, I don't think it'll be Kenny Pickett. It's going to be Tanner McKee. We watched him just throw for 300 yards in this matchup in Week 18. Mind you, there's a lot of backups in there. Can any of you name who he was throwing the ball to? Because it wasn't A.J. Brown.
Jahan Dotson.
Yeah, it wasn't A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith or Grant Calcaterra, who will all get open for him if he is the quarterback. I like Philly here. I think they win by at least a touchdown.
All right. We're opposite on the panel. Looking forward to
no team beats Green Bay by a touchdown. It hasn't happened all year. They played Detroit twice. They played the Vikings twice. They played the Eagles already. They played some good teams. That don't matter. It's a neutral game. They beat them by 10, but that game, that was when Love shouldn't have even played. He was coming off a groin injury.
We could be in the same spot. We don't know what that elbow actually is.
Nah, I'm not worried. And Green Bay's run defense has actually been really, really good. The Green Bay's defense overall has been really, really good. I'm telling you right now, if there's not a chance on planet Earth that Tanner McKee starts this game and Packers lose. I'm telling you that right now. Jeff Hafley is a good defensive coach. This is not Joe Barry from years past. There's just no way a guy named Tanner McKee is going to be able to come in and beat this team. I think it's going to come down to Hurts. I'm with you that I do think Barkley is going to be key in this game. But if the Packers get up ahead early, if Packers get up 17-7 or 17-3, you can't just run Barkley the entire game.
Oh, no,
right?
Yeah. If you get the game script, then yeah. But I don't think either team separates that far. And if they do, I think it's Philly on his back of big runs that he finally breaks through and runs like a 50-yard touchdown in.
Yeah.
And with as good as the run defense has been, let's look back at the schedule. They beat Chicago. Yeah, beat Chicago in Week 18. Yeah, they can't really run the ball. They haven't run well all year.
Yeah.
Beat Minnesota. They held Minnesota to 69 rushing yards. Aaron Jones kind of stinks now. Their run game hasn't been good all year. They held New Orleans to 67 yards in a shutout. I mean, do we even need to talk about the Saints?
Yeah, that's fair.
They held Seattle to 80 in a game they raced out to a lead. I think they were up 20-plus points to nothing. So Seattle had to abandon the run. They gave up 111 in a 3-point loss to Detroit. They give up 39 and a 30-17 win over Miami in Green Bay. 44 to San Fran when San Fran was, I think, starting their backup quarterback. So it looks like that thing where it's like, yeah, the stats are really good, but you can go back through and tell me exactly why they were able to stop the run in every game. And in the spot where the game didn't flow their way, they gave up 100 plus. Now they're going to play the best running back in the league.
I mean, 111 yards isn't that much against the Lions. I mean, David Montgomery had 14 rush attempts for 51 yards. It's 3.6 yards per carry. That's not very good. Jahmyr Gibbs had 2.9 yards per carry.
That number crept back up over 100 when the game stayed close.
It did. Well, that game was, if you remember, though, the Packers were down, by like 17, or it was 17-7 going into half, right? So Detroit did have a 10-point lead going into the second half, which, again, like I said, if that's the case for the Eagles, I've already said the Packers are done. If the Packers are down by double digits going into the second half, it's over because Barkley will. But the fact that the Lions did have a 10-point lead going in the second half, and they just ran a lot. If you run a lot, you're still going to get yards, but they weren't efficient yards, right? So I think that's the most important thing here. I don't know. Maybe I come in next week and I eat some humble pie and I'm a little too high on my team. And I just think that this is a sneaky good matchup for them. It all comes down to Hurts, man. I just think if Hurts plays, we'll see what happens there. I would be very, very shocked and disappointed if Tanner McKee or Kenny Pickett gets the start and the Packers lose this game. I would be so disappointed.
I'm not going to call myself a Green Bay playoff whisperer. But I had bet San Fran when San Fran came into Green Bay and beat them when Rodgers was the MVP and they were supposed to be this great team.
Yep.
I tried to steer spread away from Dallas last year when Green Bay went in there and shredded them.
Yep.
I think it's Philly this year. It just smells like it's time. If for as good as they've looked, if they were in the AFC, they'd have a real shot at getting to the Super Bowl. But when you look at the NFC, I think they're the worst out of all these good teams.
They're worse than Minnesota?
They might be, yeah.
No, not
Minnesota beat them twice, didn't they?
I don't care about that. That means nothing to me. Did you see what Sam Darnold?
Usually, how we determine who's the better team.
I don't think they're much better than you guys. But I think with those 2 wins, I have to put them above you this year. You see what I'm saying? Like,
I would disagree. I think they have a better defense. Their offense is not better. There's things that you could say. Look at the regular season, but regular season and postseason is not the same thing. Do you see what Sam Darnold looked like in a massive game?
Oh no,
he looked worse than Jordan Love has looked all year. How many balls he threw over guys' head? How many red zone trips they were gifted from like turnovers, and he couldn't do a single thing? I'm not trusting Sam Darnold. Spoiler alert: Sam Darnold's getting exited out here in the first round against the Rams. So, spoiler alert there. Let's move on.
He's like, get this game off my screen.
The Washington Commanders are catching 3 points in Tampa Bay, taking on the Buccaneers. Totals 50.5. Looking at a couple trends for this game. Washington coming in on a 5-game winning streak. Tampa Bay 6-1 over their last 7 games. So both teams playing their best football at this time of the year. Rookie quarterback going against Todd Bowles. That's a great factor if you want to make a case for Tampa Bay. However, Washington's been pretty good this year. And I brought this up in the Texans game, and I think it applies to both the AFC and the NFC South. Yes, the Buccaneers play well. They're beating the Saints. They're beating the Panthers. They didn't even beat the Falcons, right? At the same time, Washington's playing against Philadelphia. They're playing against the Dallas team, who I think is better than their record. And so I think that we saw more impressive wins from Washington throughout the year. So we have this high-powered offense of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We have Todd Bowles, who's traditionally done well against rookie quarterbacks. I think we have great arguments on both sides, Tyler. I'm leaning towards taking the points, but I think my projections are opposite. Let me double-check that right now. Yeah, I got it at 3.5. What are your thoughts here, Tyler?
I think I'd be on Tampa Bay in this one.
Okay.
For as well as Washington's played, they've won these games down the stretch. they've given up 300 plus total yards in 3 straight games. Now, the Philly game, understandable. Philly's a good offense. You gave it up to Atlanta in Penix's first start. You gave it up to Dallas when they were starting Trey Lance. Like, their defense might be worse than Tampa Bay's. And Tampa Bay is going to send out an offensive, I won't call it a juggernaut, but they're going to be able to move the ball. Mike Evans is going to be open. They can use Jalen McMillan, who's emerged as their wide receiver 2 for now. If Otten's back, that's another weapon. Bucky Irving's going to be running the ball well. He's going to get the majority of the carries with Rachaad White having fumbling problems. I think I'm on Tampa Bay in this one. If Jaden Daniels even has a little bit of a hiccup as the rookie quarterback in the playoffs, for as bad as Baker played last week, it just feels like he has the more experience here. I've seen him win playoff games. I've seen him go toe-to-toe with Mahomes in a playoff game. I'm taking Tampa Bay here, -3. I think they win.
Jamie, what side are you on?
Well, they got smoked by Tampa Bay, so we're going with your Packers and Vikings analogy. They did lose by 17 when they played Tampa Bay earlier this year.
That's a great point. Wasn't that really early in the year though?
It was week 1.
I think it was Jaden Daniels' first road game, right?
It was first game of the year. Yeah. So yeah. So I was mostly just giving you crap there, but the Washington they've not beat a single playoff team all year. I know they just beat Philly, but Hurts played had 4 attempts that game or something like that. And then you played against Kenny Pickett, who is not an NFL level starting quarterback whatsoever. But outside of that, I don't think they've beat a single playoff team all year. They've lost to some good ones. They lost to the Eagles. They lost to Baltimore. I think that they lost to Pittsburgh as well, right? So they've lost to playoff teams, and and Tampa Bay, obviously, but they've lost to playoff teams and they beat the bad teams. I do think Washington's a good team. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. I expect some points here, to be honest. I don't think either defense is very good. Both offenses rank in the top 5 in offensive EPA. So I'm excited about that. For me, though, I do probably just lean with the experience. Again, to me, when it comes to playoffs, it is so much different than regular season. I think if you have not been there before, we are humans, right? If anyone here has ever played sports before, playing a regular season game and then going to go play state, right? It's a different feel. Or getting to the playoffs, it's a different feel. It's a different feeling. Everything is different, and you can feel that expectations. And I think that's going to matter here. And so for me, I would lean towards Tampa Bay, but I don't honestly love Tampa Bay either. So this is a game that I have actually passed, but I do lean Tampa Bay. I just don't think Tampa Bay is, a juggernaut team by any stretch. I don't think they're a very good defense. I think Baker has played really, really well this year, but I also know it's Baker Mayfield, and he could easily have a game where he throws 2 or 3 interceptions, right? That is easily in the range of outcomes. So for me, it's going to be a pass. I'm going to enjoy to watch it. I'm sure if you guys tune in on Thursday for the prop show, I feel like this is probably a good game to get some actions there. But from sides to total, I'm going to probably just end up passing.
The Minnesota Vikings are on the road against the Los Angeles Rams. Jamie, you already spoiled it. Tell me why you're on the Rams in this game.
They're just a better football team. I think the coaches are pretty close. I think Kevin O'Connell was a great head coach. The quarterback's not even close. It's not even close. On one side of the ball, you have a head coach and a quarterback that are Super Bowl champions. On the other side, you don't, right? You have a guy like Sam Darnold that has been a backup quarterback, was a bust and a backup quarterback for several years, that was gifted a really good offensive football team, right? And a really good head coach. Darnold is not on the level of Matt Stafford whatsoever. So in the simplest way, that is the reason why. But I also think this is a really good matchup for Matt Stafford. Minnesota blitz is at the number 2 highest rate in the league. Stafford is very good against the blitz. He ranks 6th in EPA per dropback versus the blitz, with an 8-10 or 8-2 touchdown interception ratio, and 19th in EPA per dropback when he is not blitzed, 12-6 touchdown interception ratio. So I think that this is a really good spot for the Rams. I've said on this show all year, even earlier on, that I like the Rams. I think that they're a much better team. There's just no way you can have Sean McVay, Matt Stafford, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, who hasn't been that great, but that's mostly because of Puka, right? And then you have a guy like Kyron Williams. I think the defense is not great, but I feel like they've been able to turn it on here a little bit lately. So I think the Rams are just a better team. I think the Rams should be favorite. This is going to be my favorite bet of the week. I just don't trust Sam Darnold in this offense. I mean, we can say what we want, right? Not to go back to the Packers, but the Packers have lost 6 games this year by a combined 26 points. The Vikings just lost by like 22 in week 18 in a massive, massive game, right? Like, it's not a must-win game. Obviously, they're in the playoffs no matter what, but getting the 1 seed and to getting the 5 seed is drastic in this type of environment in this season. So I love the Rams here. They're just a better football team. Matt Stafford's much better than Sam Darnold. And I don't want to hate on Kevin O'Connell because I really do think that he's a great coach. I'm not sure if he's better than Sean McVay.
He doesn't know how to call a run in the red zone.
That's what I'm saying. They keep doing the same thing over and over again. But I do think he's a great coach. But still,
that just frustrated me in that Sunday night game because
I don't know why. I don't know how you keep doing the same thing. You know what I mean? It's like clearly Sam Darnold was off and they had multiple chances and you're not running the football. It was wild to me. And then, but yeah, just give me the experience, man. Two really good quarterbacks and head coach that have just won a Super Bowl, and I think they're getting a pretty decent spot here, to be honest. So I like the Rams.
As much as I like arguing with Jamie, Tyler, he made some pretty good points here on the Rams. I think one thing that he's kind of conveniently overlooking is that I think the Vikings do have a much better defense.
No, they do.
However, if you did force me, this is a league that has legislated against defense. It's legislated to be a quarterback league, and that's why, like I said, there's just 10 teams that's just hopeless. You can't win you're not winning Super Bowls with Jeff Hostetler and Phil Simms anymore, guys. You really got to have an elite guy. So with all that being said, I think he made a pretty good argument for the Rams, and I have a feeling you're going to back him up.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing here is I don't know if you guys noticed this. Every team that's played Detroit this year, the next game, unless they're on a bye or play an absolute shitter of a team, they've gotten blown out, like the doors blown off them. The Rams, week 1, lost to Detroit. Do we remember what happened in week 2? That was when the Cardinals hung 42 real fast on the Rams. Tampa Bay. They lost to they beat Detroit, and they got blown out the following week. Arizona, same thing. When they lose to Detroit, blown out. Seattle loses to Detroit, loses to the Giants the following week. Dallas is the only team in this stretch that lost to Detroit and didn't lose their next game because they were on a bye week. You get all the way to Tennessee, and the only reason Tennessee won a game is because they played the Patriots. This physical defense attacks offenses. How many times do we see Darnold on his back on Sunday night? They hit the quarterback, and if you don't get a week off in between, it just seems like you're just not ready for the next game. Now you're going to go into another hostile environment. I know the Rams don't have the biggest home field advantage. I don't see the Vikings fans traveling well to L.A.
Oh, they will.
Stafford's the better quarterback. They're going to get pressure on Darnold. The blueprint's there. They might have the better wide receiver core. It's very close there. They have the better running back. I like the Rams here. I think the Vikings season ended losing that game to the Lions.
Yep.
They needed the 1 seed.
I agree with everything you said, except for I still think the Vikings do have a better wide receiver core, and I do think they're going to travel too. I think they're going to travel.
I mean, the Vikings have
a lot of Vikings fans in there.
The Vikings have the better overall wide receiver because Justin Jefferson is the best receiver in football, but Cooper Kupp is better than Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison did
at this point of his career, is he?
Jordan Addison catch a pass last week?
They both kind of do the same thing of disappearing for weeks and then showing back up. So, I mean, they're kind of the same guy.
I think Kupp is good. I just think the way that this team has been set up is so much going to Puka. I still think that Kupp can turn it on, right?
It's like Justin Jefferson's, he's wide receiver 1 or 2, depending on how you want to argue Jamar Chase. Mm-hmm. But Puka's like 5, 4, depending where you want to put A.J. Brown. So he's up there. Like this is going to be a really good game. I'm taking the Rams. Give me the experience. I think Darnold makes a costly interception in this game. And that puts them right in the spot that they got to think about all offseason. You paying them or you giving the young kid the chance?
I think it makes it easy.
It makes
the game goes how you two predicted.
You got to give the kid a chance.
You hit the ceiling. Thank you, Sam.
Go rob somebody else for their money.
Yep. I mean, that's
ceiling.
That's true. And it's the same thing I've been saying for years about with Kirk Cousins too. And no disrespect to Kirk Cousins, and he's a better version of what Sam Darnold was. But his ceiling was always maxed, right? Like there was just no way I was ever to think that Kirk Cousins was going to take this team to a Super Bowl. He was never a top 10, top 15 quarterback, right? He maybe had seasons where he played really well, right? Because of the offense that he has, similar to Sam Darnold, right? Like Sam Darnold has played well this year because of the offense he's on, but he's not a top 15 quarterback in the NFL, right? He's just simply not. And so, JJ, you got to at least see what JJ McCarthy could be. Maybe he won't be good. I imagine he probably will be good. I imagine next year during best ball, I will probably be getting a lot of JJ McCarthy.
The other thing you do is you franchise tag him and you run him out there one more year, and maybe just maybe you luck into some team's quarterback goes down when they're 6-0 or 5-1 somewhere in there, and they're like, we look like we still got a shot. Call them right now and see what they want for Darnold.
Yeah.
That's the only other thing
unless you guys are wrong and the Vikings win this weekend, I think the decision's pretty easy.
I mean, I'll say one thing though,
or let's say they lose 51-49, right? And you can't.
There is this storybook writing on the wall for the Vikings because you lost to Detroit earlier in the year, and then you went and played the Rams and you lost to them. You lose to Detroit to lose out on the 1 seed. Now you get your chance at redemption to go in and beat the Rams on their home field in the playoffs. And if no upsets happen, you get to go right back into Detroit and try and get that win back. So there is this storybook where it's like, wow, the Vikings lost and we thought they were dead, and they rose from the dead to beat the 2 teams that beat them in the regular season.
You're right. And I will say this too, if we're talking about storybook, not to hammer Green Bay one more time. Well, I trust me, I've thought about this. And again, I picked the Rams. I was like, the Packers lost to the Eagles, right? You get them week 1. They lost twice to the Lions. Who do they get in the second round? The Lions. And who could they get in the NFC Championship? Maybe the Minnesota Vikings. All 3 of the teams that the Packers lost to this year, obviously they ended up losing the Bears, so that kind of ruled that out. But I was like, line them all up. How storybook is that? Everyone said, oh, you can't beat these good teams. Line them up and let's just go through them all. See you in the Super Bowl. We'll see you in New Orleans. All right. I thought about it. I think the Rams do beat the Vikings. But trust me, I've thought about that storybook ending for myself too. I've stayed up late at night and dreamt about it.
I want to see late nights for Jamie on that storybook ending.
100%. As I'm watching the 2010 Super Bowl on repeat on YouTube. I even just watched the 1996 one too in New Orleans against the Patriots. Man, I love to go back and watch the old school games on YouTube.
I've seen one of those. I don't know if you've seen like where they make those TikTok edits of the sports guys where like it's like a clip of them talking and then it goes into like their highlights. There's a Brett Favre one. He was like, I had to ask the one coach what nickel defense was.
He had asked Tyler.
He's like, they take a linebacker off the field and put a D-back on. He's like, I don't give a shit. And then it cuts into all his clips, and I'm like, this is legit. When you watch him throw the ball, it's Mahomes. Like he's doing little flick passes. He's throwing it like a bazooka. It's like, it's
100%. It's funny that you said that because literally when Mahomes was drafted, I was like, this guy's like he's Brett Favre to me. He's obviously he's a better version of Brett Favre. He doesn't throw as many bad INTs, but his style of play very similar to Brett Favre.
I was watching that clip. I was watching that little highlight tape. I'm like, yep, this is literally Mahomes 20 years ago.
Yep. 100%. Yep.
Tyler, what's your best bet for the weekend?
Best bet for the weekend, we are gonna go with a teaser. Push the Bills down to under a field goal and take Houston up to 8.5.
All right, fair enough. Sounds like a pretty good teaser to me. Jamie, what's your favorite bet for the weekend? It's not the Packers.
No, not the Packers, man. I love the Packers, but I'm not going to make it my best bet. It's the Rams. Not even close. So, yeah, give me the Rams. Honestly, just take the money line. It's like, 1.5 right now? I doubt that matters, but so I would just take the money line.
Jamie's going to hate me, but I feel like this is like not the whale play of Wildcard Weekend, but like Baltimore, Buffalo, and Philly is 125 on the money lines.
Oh, don't do it.
That feels kind of like an easy click.
Don't do it. And I will throw one other thing out for a best bet. Whichever side you land on Green Bay or Philly, either one, don't bet on them. Take their future. Take on them to represent the NFC. I genuinely think the winner of this game will represent the NFC. So that would be my take.
I got slight bad news for you, Jamie.
What?
You see these waves in the corner? They aren't blue for no reason.
You got the Lions?
Yeah. Their defense worried me for a couple weeks, and it don't worry me no more. Like they look like them in KC. Like it's just like the paths broke for them. It's gonna be real tough to go into Detroit and beat them. Just like it's gonna be real tough to go into Kansas City and beat them.
Yeah.
Might just bet the plus 480 matchup and watch those two teams just walk into the Super Bowl together.
Yeah, I mean, possible. I mean, the 49ers did just dump 34 on that defense. And then 2 weeks ago, Buffalo scored 48. I still worry about the defense a little bit. And Green Bay scored 31 on them too, right? So it's like I still worry about the defense a little bit. I did just every week. I feel like who did they just lose this past week? There's some play on the defense.
They lost Arnold, but they got Anzalone back, who's the defensive captain.
That's
held
true.
a top 5 offense to 9 points. I ain't worried no more.
Yeah, you're not going to face Sam Darnold every week, though. You know what I mean?
Arnold will probably be back for the divisional round. They said Montgomery's possibly back for the divisional round.
I saw that.
Who knows what other defensive guys get activated? And they said Hutchinson could be back for the conference championship. This team could roll into the Super Bowl, and it's like, oh, there's Detroit from week 1.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I should say, too, I do think that Detroit and Green Bay is a tougher matchup for Green Bay. Green Bay struggles against a team like Detroit. But the Eagles, I think specifically, I will definitely be betting if it comes down to the NFC Championship or whatever it is. I will probably be betting on, obviously, if everyone's healthy, of the Eagles over them. I think that defense is just too good, and I think that their strengths are some of the weaknesses for this Lions team. But either way, man, it's a lot of fun games. It feels like the NFC is just – this week specifically is so much more fun than the AFC, right? Doesn't it feel that way? It just feels like the AFC just has come snooze fest potential
AFC
games.
Is just let's get Baltimore and Buffalo over with and
get to the divisional round.
Get to KC. Like who's playing KC?
Yep. And question.
What fun is it if Pittsburgh upsets Baltimore, because we know Pittsburgh ain't going into KC and winning, so we know we're getting Buffalo KC again. Let's get the Baltimore-Buffalo matchup, and then winner gets to go to KC.
Yep, I agree. And I was going to ask, who do we think has the best chance from this wildcard round to upset Kansas City? Do you think it is? No. For the next round, I'm saying. So for the divisional round, from the wildcard, who's going to win the wildcard to face them in the divisional round to be able to beat them? So like Houston, Chargers, Steelers, Broncos.
None of them.
Who has the best chance, you think? I think Chargers.
Chargers.
Yeah. I think Chargers. A lot of their games have been close this year.
But they have no chance.
I don't say they have no chance.
I think it's honestly Houston, because I trust Houston's defense more than I trust the Chargers. And God forbid Stroud gives you one game.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. That's fair. Also, too, Herbert. I don't know. I wish he had more weapons. Herbert's just such a good quarterback.
That's the other thing I think back when how you guys said Chargers. It's like, well, if we're going to beat the Chiefs, it's probably going to be like a touchdown that decides it, like just one of those big plays. Yeah, I'm going to trust Nico Collins to bust the coverage and go 80 instead of Lad McConkey to run a zig route for 90 yards. Yeah,
I mean, that's fair. I mean, spread's probably right. It's probably going to be neither team. I'm going to be hoping they do. I'm over the Chiefs. So, although you would want a good AFC championship game. So,
honestly, those two teams could be live just based off the fact that those guys haven't played. They're not going to have played football for 25 days.
Yeah, that's true.
You gotta hit the ground running in that game, though, because you better grab a lead and milk clock, because once they catch their groove again, they're going to score a lot of points.
That's true, and I do think this Chiefs team is, with getting Hollywood Brown back, man, helps.
Yeah,
like I think this team is probably much better, and if they had Rashee Rice, we'd probably be looking at them probably going to three-peat.
It'd be plus 110 to win it all if they had Rashee Rice.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, guys. Well, that's some good conversation. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Guys, the show is brought to you by fanspeak.com. Thank you for my guys in the chat. I see Clyde. I see Cape. He always does some good content. Follow him on Twitter. What's up, Meg? Tim D. And my guy, Jubo, down there. He's going to fade us harder than Kid and Play. So, all right, guys. We'll be back next week, and one of you guys will get to Victory Lap.